Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Cake Radio Show. I am your lovely host, CakeDive, and I hope you guys are doing well whenever you're watching or listening to this episode. I wanted to hop on here, and I'm recording all my episodes all at once this week, so if the audio sounds crazy, bear with me. I wanted to spend this time to record an episode because one of the girls is dropping their newest song at the time of release of this episode tonight, and it is Normani. She is dropping her track. I think it's called 157 or 158, like 1 minute something. Let me pull this up, and hopefully I don't get copyrighted because I'm about to play the track. It's like, baby, so we get high again. Yeah, 159. 1 minute 59. And I wanted to hop on here and do an episode because the rollout has been very interesting. I was about to say strange, but it's been very interesting. And for the girls who know me personally, when I say interesting, usually when I say interesting, it's not, like, sometimes it's not positive. Like, it's kind of like, this was very strange. So I really wanted to dig into this before the song dropped. And, check me and check some of the girls at the door before, the discourse and the numbers and the chart discussions come in. Because I already know if the song does well, the girls are going to be like, oh my God, congratulations, Normani. And there's going to be one half the girls who are like, oh my God, congratulations, Normani. Like, she's here to stay. And there's going to be the other girls who are like haters who are like, oh, like, maybe it's a fluke. Like, girl, like, nobody going to tune into this album or like whatever. And then if it flops, then there's going to be the girls on like Pop Crave comments phased out like, oh my gosh, she's a flop. Like, she did all that for nothing, da 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 da, and like we going to like do a repeat of whatever's going on. So let's talk about what's going on with Normani. So Normani was one of the former girls of Fifth Harmony, of course. They broke up, and she left to do her solo music. She dropped a bunch of singles that kind of were like, a lot of people were thinking were false starts to the album, and a lot of people like. There was motivation. Well, there's waves, motivation. She did the collaborations with like Calvin Harris or whoever that dude is. Wild Side with Cardi B, Fair, and those singles came out. Oh, and even like some of the random stuff that she did, like the collaboration with Megan Thee Stallion, War Diamonds with for the song for Birds of Prey. And those songs have come out like within like several like months, if not like years, like away from each other. And the girls were always thinking like, oh, like is Normani gonna drop an album? Like, is she actually gonna drop an album, or is she just gonna be like a singles artist? And then she like did a tweet saying like, oh, like I finally have the title of my album. And as the singles rolled out, and as those singles turned from like album singles to false starts, she started becoming kind of the butt of the joke almost, in which like people were like, the joke was that Normani was never gonna drop. Like, I remember seeing tweets of like this one girl who like quote retweet every year the tweet of Normani saying, I finally have the title for my album. And she's like, oh, it's been a year, like you're sick, it's been 6 months, you're sick, like, and she would do that until eventually earlier this year she dropped a link to her website and revealed that she is dropping her album this year. The album's called DOPAMINE, and she just announced the title, she showed the album cover, and that's it. And the girls were excited, the girls were talking about it, like, oh my God, like Normani's actually dropping an album, like it's actually happening, like girl is coming. And the girls were worried because with the album announcement, yes, it announced that it was dropping this year, but it didn't say when it was dropping this year. And the girls were like, oh, like maybe she's not dropping, like maybe the team doesn't know when they're dropping this, like maybe they're just waiting to see. And a month or so went by, and the girls were like, girl, we got the album title, we got the album cover, where are we gonna get a release date? Like, when's the first single and stuff coming? And she went radio silent for like a month or so, and then she came back. She's like, okay, like I have an announcement tomorrow, and the announcement was that she's dropping her first single, 159, and she announced it a month in advance, a little bit over a month in advance, mind you. And the girls were like making fun of her because it's like, oh, like why are you announcing a single a month in advance? It's at the time I'm recording this. This is Monday, April 22nd. We've only really gotten some like snippets of the song, as well as a snippet for another song that's most likely going to be on the album. We also had confirmation that one of the songs that she teased before prior to this album rollout, it's called Candy Paint, is also most likely going to be on the album. And it's release week of the single, and we haven't really got anything but some like TikTok videos with like snippets of the song. We don't have confirmation if there's gonna be a music video. We know who's featured on it. We know it's Gunna, but that's all we know. And the girls are kind of like, girl, where's the promo? Like, it's kind of strange. And for me, I'm also one of the girls that's like, girl, do you know you're dropping the single this? Like, she's doing Instagram posts and stuff, like talking about the single, but like, you would think that she would have like a stronger rollout. And I wanted to discuss my hypothesis as to why that is. I blame RCA. Like, I know the girls keep trying to, like, the girls have before me have tried figuring out what's going on with Normani. Like, why hasn't she dropped the album? Why is it taking so long for her to drop the album? Da 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 da. And I think there's a lot of things going on at once that led to like this moment, as well as this rollout being so strange. So for starters, I think what the difference between like her release with like Motivation and like Wild Side and like Fair was, I think that Motivation was like one era, and I think during that time, like, she hinted at an album, but she wasn't like, the conversation wasn't really as strong as it was in recent years. Whereas it was like, oh, like I definitely want to do an album, like I would love Motivation to be on there, da da da. But like, she's been fairly consistent in what she said, in which it's like, oh, like the album is gonna release this time, and like I'm so excited. I just want to make sure that like it comes at the right time and that it's ready. So I think she is a little bit of a perfectionist. So I think that there's that aspect of it. So I definitely think that with like, I think with each release of these previous singles that have come out that are now standalone singles, I think she was kind of hoping that they performed stronger than they did. Especially with Fair and Wild Side. I think Fair and Wild Side were definitely like, that was her transition from like mostly pop to a more R&B sound, and I think that she was hoping that those songs would pop off better than they did. Now mind you, Wild Side was a hit. It went number one in my household, but like it was a hit. I felt like the song was everywhere. Mind you, the charts, I'm not one for the charts, but I'll bring up the charts when the girls talk about the charts. I'm not going to discuss the charts right now because I don't think it's important for the subject. But I think like overall, like the song was kind of, it was a moment. The girls gagged about the song. Fair was not that. Fair, like I remember the girls were like not trying to listen to, like they didn't care too much about Fair. She had a little visualizer and she did one little performance, and that was really it. Whereas Wild Side really got the push. And I think that there was some perfectionist there, in which it was like, oh, like these songs aren't produced like up to stuff. Like maybe I should overhaul it and do something different. And part of that is like understandable, and part of that's also like y'all's fault, as in like y'all the listener, because like from what I'm noticing with a lot of these new girls is that like the moment that the new girls don't want to do pop, y'all get mad. Like I think I think y'all need to be honest and say that y'all want like y'all want one of these new black girls who are coming up to be like pop girlies. Like y'all want them to be like the new, like, not the new Beyonce, because I feel like for me, my personal opinion is that I don't think there will ever be a new Beyonce. But I think a lot of y'all are trying to get to that, like, get there. Like, y'all are like, oh, like, let's get the new Beyonce. And let's get a new pop girlie who's, like, a black girl. And it's like, I see the vision, but, like, it seems like none of the girls that y'all want to be pop girls really want to do pop. And that is, like, okay. like, it's a little frustrating because I think some of the girls definitely do best with pop. But, like, the girls don't want to do pop, and that's their business. Like, but y'all, like, y'all be cutting up when it comes to supporting the songs, because y'all be hyping up the girls and then y'all don't be streaming the songs because it's R&B, or like it's like R&B pop, like it's not full on pop to the point in which it's tugging on these like white girls' wigs. But like, y'all still gotta tune into the songs. Like, Fair wasn't that bad. It wasn't her, it's not definitely not her best single, but I think that it wasn't horrible. Now, Wild Side deserved a lot more. Like, that should have been a number one hit. Like, that was incredible. Like, ooh, I still listen to Wild Side to this day. I still listen to Fair to this day too. But like, take me for a ride, boy. Show me Wild Side, boy. Like, that is a hit, baby. Ooh, like, that was a moment. And the girls just don't really be talking about the songs because like the girls want pop. Like, the girls literally have like a running joke on Twitter like to this day, in which it's like, oh, like, if Normani did a tour, it's like, oh, if Normani did a tour, like she would, or like a Eras tour, she would just perform Motivation like 6 times. And then there's like there's a video in which is like, oh, like, guess the song Normani edition, and it literally was just them like playing Motivation like 16 times, and then like Waves featuring Black out. The way his name's spelled, I want to say Six Lack. Like, I know the girls be like, oh, his name is Black, baby. I'm calling you Six Lack. So Six Lack, then Waves featuring Six Lack pops up, and they just like, oh, I don't know what that is. Like, the girls really don't, like, when it comes to R&B, like, y'all, like, I like, don't act crazy when I'm saying this. Like, y'all don't like when the girls do R&B, but when the girls do pop, y'all are like, oh my god, I love it. Like, they're up next. Like, y'all don't really be supporting the girls like that. So like, let's be so for real right now. Like, y'all want pop girls, and that's okay. But y'all need to support the black girls that are actually doing pop, instead of like the girls that are like, that got hit potential and are like making good music, but it's just not pop. It's like R&B. And I guess that's also the problem. Like, I think that there's a lot of, like, we're in a space in music in which there are so many artists out right now who are in a lot of different genres, and I feel like the genres that are like very crowded at this point is like R&B, which does go against to what I was saying, which is like, oh, like, let the girls be pop R&B girls. It's like R&B and pop are kind of like crowded spaces right now, because it's like those are the two hottest like genres for like black artists right now. Not even black artists, but just artists in general. Like that, and I guess like country is kind of getting its little like revitalization era, because like there's newer country people coming in, and Beyonce rolled out Cabaret Quarter. Now everyone want to do country. Like, we're kind of entering the re-evaluation of like country, but for the most part, in a lot of spaces, R&B has been very crowded, and pop has also been very crowded. R&B has been very crowded because all of the men have been kind of in either the rap space or the R&B space, and then there's also like so many girls that are also in the R&B space, and it's like so fragmented, in which it's like, with R&B, it's pretty difficult to like really push through and break out unless you have the hit that like can't be defeated. Like, SZA was able to make it through as like an R&B girl. I'm seeing a lot of girls now say that she's like a pop star. No, she is an R&B artist. Like, she was doing R&B, baby. She popped off with Control, because the girl and Control was like it was a hit, but it wasn't even like it was a hit because of the longevity. Like it took her several years before we got the next album that the girls that were not paying attention to Control were listening to the girls who were trying to gatekeep Control and be like, oh, these songs are just wow. And then when SOS finally dropped, that was the hit. Like everyone tuned in. It was like, oh my god, like SZA is back. Like this is the album. And we ran through with the people praising the album and then the discourse because everyone wants to be different. Turn on the album, and now like we are kind of in this era where SZA is really like the new artist up next, in which she can put out a single with very minimal promo like Saturn, and it will stay on the top 10 charts. Like she is undisputably here to stay as an artist. And with the R&B girls, it's like you really kind of have to have that hit that is like, oh, like it is so good of a hit that in the R&B genre that like everyone is paying attention, or else you're kind of like stuck fighting for the scraps. And the same thing can be said with the men too. Like with the men in the R&B space, like there's very few men in the R&B space that really like thrive because there's only a handful. Like it's like Chris Brown, who really shouldn't be thriving because he's literally an evil person, like an evil, disgusting person, and he literally makes the same songs from like 2010 over again, and y'all just run the check. Like nail salons and the radio just be running a check to him. And I'll talk more about Chris Brown in another episode, but y'all got Chris Brown, then y'all got Bryson Tiller, and then you like everybody else kind of be fighting for the scraps. Like it really just be like a bucket and barrel of just a bunch of other R&B artists, and it's like some of them will have hits, some of them will kind of but like they all kind of fighting for the same demographic. Like there isn't really like a strong, newer, undisputable kind of like titan in that space, at least for the men. Also because like the men aren't really innovating the genre too much. Like we had Bryson Tiller like really kind of innovate. Like he was the last one who kind of innovated the game. Like the girls were really loving the R&B that he's putting out, and then everyone in that like industry who was like a man was like, oh, like let's just make all of the R&B music sound like this. And now we're just kind of in this plateau era. So it's either like Bryson Tiller-esque music, or it's like Chris Brown making the same 2010s track in like 2024 because he's jobless and a loser. But enough about that. I need to dig back into Normani. Sorry for the sidetrack, but this is about her. I feel like with her, like she has made pretty good R&B music up to this point. Like granted, we're only going off of a handful of tracks. Like she did really good with Wild Side. Like I think that is like her best R&B track so far. Waves wasn't bad. Like it was a little bit mid, but it was still enjoyable. And so far, the snippets that I've heard of this new track have been pretty good. Like I am ready to stream, honey. Like I am gagging. But we kind of have to. The other thing was we also have to realize is that we're only going off of so much with her. Like we don't have a full body of work yet, and that's kind of the issue that a lot of like the newer quote unquote artists that are popping off that have to kind of go through. Because I did kind of touch on this with my Chloe and Halle episode talking about their solo music, in which when Chloe entered the solo space, like a lot of the criticism and stuff that she was having towards her, at least her music, was one because the genre, like she was trying to do, like she's kind of started off with pop, and then she kind of transitioned to an R&B sound, and the girls like R&B, but they also don't like R&B, and they don't want the new girls to be doing R&B. So there's that criticism, and then also this is also a reply to that previous episode. A lot of girls in the comments were kind of proving my point, in which it's like, oh, like some of the girls, I forgot to bring up this point, but some of the girls were talking about like, oh, like she was being weird and trying to like do too much in like her videos when she was first coming up. Like y'all holding anything against that lady when y'all just gotta say y'all don't like her, or y'all just don't like the music, y'all don't like the R&B music. Like I think she has room to improve for sure, and I think she has. We have a full body of work from her now, and Pieces is out. And while it is it isn't a great album. It's inconsistent in sound and quality. I think it definitely has its hits. I think I'm, again, very excited to hear what she does with her next track. With Normani, the girls are trying to kind of rip her and like critique her and see what's going on with her, and we don't have a full body of work yet, and that's the problem. Like, everyone wants the full body of work, and they're also criticizing her rollout when we don't have the full body of work yet. So like, and I think this is kind of the issue that I'm seeing, in which it's like, I'm seeing a lot of people now talk about how like, oh, like debut albums matter. We're kind of in an era in which a lot like stan culture has kind of transitioned things, in which it's like, oh, like every piece of music that you put out matters. Like, it matters where it charts. If it doesn't chart in the top 10, you will flop. Like, you need to retire. Like, your stuff is trash. Like, it's over. When with a lot of the titans and a lot of the artists that have really had their success in the industry, a lot of them have what like people would consider nowadays like their flops. Like, they've had to like dug it out, and they when they became like the artists that they are today, they were consistently adding, they consistently improved, and they had their weak moments in which they're in their weak performances, but they also had their high notes and their successes. And I feel like we're also in this culture where everybody is like high, like we're in a hyper criticized space, in which it's like mind you, music criticism is like on its way out. Like, criticism in general is kind of on its way out. It's just like a bunch of people. When I mean criticism, like, I feel like there's a difference between actual critique, in which people are actually like looking through the body of work and really digging deep into it and explaining, oh, like, I like this because this is like the particular stuff that I enjoyed about this, and here is like, let me give you my props, let me give you my critiques on an equal basis, rather than like just people just hating. And I feel like we're in a culture where like people just hate on anybody and are not giving them a chance. Like, it's really, and I feel like that has hit Normani, in which it's like the girls are not giving her the chance to really like show what she can do and really grow from it. I would love for her to finally drop this album, and even if it's not like an incredible album, which, mind you, I feel like she's gonna have an uphill battle, because I feel like because of the fact that it's taken so long for her to drop this album, the girls are gonna be overhyping the album. So when the album comes out and they're not feeling it, it's like, oh, like, this was the worst album. Like, why did it take so long for her to drop this? I feel like people have set themselves up to fail, and it's also partly not their fault because of the time that it took. And there's just there's so many things happening at once that like really will kind of tell how people react to the album. But I'm excited to hear this new single. I'm excited to hear the album finally. I probably will do a review on the podcast about my thoughts on the album, and talk about where Normani can go from here. And I'm also excited for what her next body of work after this will be like, because I hope that this album is successful enough and that people give it like the chance so that she can keep making music. Because the issue is that like she's had so many things go on in her life that have led to the delay of the music. Like, she's a part of RCA. RCA he hates artists. Like, they keep delaying and like messing with release dates. Like, we've seen it with other artists of like Normani's caliber, and even artists that are like more successful and have been in the game longer than Normani. There's been that sabotage, and there's been like that weird sort of label mishaps and stuff that have happened with artists, especially under RCA, that have, very clearly shown like messed with how artists perceive, how like audiences are perceiving the artists that are aligned with that label. So a good chunk of it, I think, is down to RCA and how they've kind of mismanaged and like failed to fully push Normani. I think they've pushed her when they like kind of definitely see like a hit, like, oh, like, this is a hit, and when it doesn't perform to stuff, like, they are quick to kind of, I guess, hit pause and give up and have her overhaul things. That's why I think the sounds that she's had have felt so different with the standalone singles. Like, we went from very like commercial pop with like motivation, and then you have like very deep rough cut R&B, which isn't even like rough cut R&B. It's like with like waves and fair, I would say. Like, I guess like not rough cut, but like very clean and like very sort of, I not generic, but like it's kind of, you the sound has been there. And then you also have like stuff that kind of sets up stuff that sets the R&B stuff that sets itself apart from like Wild Side. Like, I'm Wild Side stand number one, I fear, but y'all going maybe it'll grow on y'all. I don't know, but I think there's the label issues. She also had family stuff that happened. She did talk about in like interviews and stuff that she had family members who had cancer. Some of the hurricane stuff that was happening in her hometown. So, and I also think I also think she's a perfectionist. I also think she's like super hard on herself. And I think that the stands who are critiquing her and have been like really pushing her both help and hurt her. I think she's definitely had a struggle, kind of embracing that and really kind of leaning into that. Thinking about that one interview she did with like Apple Music where like she cried and she was like, I don't know, she didn't know like if she like deserved to be in the space that she is with music. And I hope that she like definitely in the newer interviews with this new album rollout, she's suggesting that she's in like a better, healthier place and like knows where she wants to like communicate with her music and knows where she wants to go with that. And I hope it connects with the audiences. I hope the girls tune in. Be sure that y'all listen to this new track, because I will, and I might do a little review for you guys. And that is really it. But be easy on Normani, please. Like, y'all been asking for this album for years. Y'all been making fun of this girl for so long. Now that we actually getting the music, y'all need to mobilize, tune in, lock in, stream, buy the track, and support her, because like this is what y'all wanted. But like, well, not if you like one of them girls that want her to be doing pop, but I digress. But that is all I got. Be nice to Normani, guys. And let me know in the comments or in the Q&A feature if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, what your thoughts on Normani is. How did you feel about the previous singles? How do you feel about this new single that's out by the time that I'm releasing this, later tonight? Let me know. And also let me know like what you think led to like the significant delay between like her debut singles to like now. Like, do you think it was RCA's fault? Do you think it was more her doing? Like, what do y'all think? Let me know. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow, either if you're watching this on YouTube at Cake Radio Show, be sure to subscribe and drop a like. Or if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, like Cast FM, like if you one of the girls that is streaming this on your favorite podcast, iHeartRadio, I've seen some people listening on iHeartRadio. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow the podcast there and give it a lovely, lovely rating. And that's pretty much all I got to say. I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.